Hello guys and welcome to today's video, and what we're going to be talking about here is now tropical cyclone Fili that is here in the South Pacific here, and it's going to be impacting New Caledonia here as we head out through the rest of the day, probably the next day or so, as this is located now at 18.7 south, 161.1 east. The maximum sustained winds are at 50 knots or 60 miles per hour, and minimal central pressure is at 995 millibars. So this is pretty decent right now for what it's for being a monsoonal nature, of a cyclone here. All right, so here's the warnings, the advisory from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, and you can see here we got 50 knots here, which is pretty on cue, and we should be getting a Category 1 cyclone out of this come Thursday with 65 knots, which is 75 miles per hour. So after that point, it should be weakening as it heads farther south. But before that, you're definitely going to be feeling some impacts for a little bit here in New Caledonia. So you guys are going to have to be paying attention to some tropical storm force winds and, very heavy rains and probably some wind damage too. So just a heads up there in New Caledonia. So we're going to take a look at the infrared here, and let's let it load. As you can see, it's getting its act together here. It was getting blasted by westerly shear not long ago, but the low-level center has since, I think, been dragged under that very deep convection, which is heading towards New Caledonia as we speak. Now, forecasters do not foresee a landfall in New Caledonia, but like I said, you're probably going to get the strong gusty winds. You're probably going to get the very heavy rains. You're probably going to have flooding issues, and you're probably going to get some damage to go along with the system as we head out more throughout the next 24 to 36 hours or so. So, right now there's a big blob of convection here that could have the low-level center now in that as it moves to the south and then maybe to the southeast as we head through time. Now, there are some models that want to take this west, and then there are some models that want to take it southeast. Now, there is a chance that this could get into the Australian region of responsibility. So, we're going to have to see how that all pans out, because if it does go past the 60 east line, then that's BOM's responsibility at that point, I do believe. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the GEPS tracks and minimal MSLP. And as you guys typically know, the GEPS is not typically too bullish on systems, but it seems like it has this one right. We're looking at 1,000 to 990 millibars for most of its life cycle here until we get towards 4 or 5 days out, where it starts to weaken and become extratropical. I believe it will be as well. We head out through that time frame. All right, so here we are. GEFS tracks and minimal MSLP, and as you guys know, the GEFS is usually the bullish one when it comes, between the GEPS and the GEFS. So it has a strengthening down to 990, between 990 and 980 millibars for 2 or 3 days. And like I said, this isn't real close proximity of New Caledonia, so you're obviously going to feel impacts on that island from Tropical Cyclone Fili as we head out through the next 48 hours. As you guys look at this, you guys are probably already getting affected by rainfall here in some of the northernmost islands of New Caledonia as we head out later through time. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the sea surface temperatures here. And as you can see, we definitely got very reasonable sea surface temperatures here near New Caledonia, where we have 28 and 29 degrees Celsius, which is plenty enough for a strengthening tropical cyclone of this nature. Obviously, like I said, it comes from monsoonal origin, so, when the models show you like a 977, that's realistically going to be like a 65 knot, tropical cyclone instead of when you see that 977 inside the North Atlantic, where that's typically a Category 2 hurricane. We're probably only going to be looking at a bare minimal Category 1 hurricane here, which I will show, or cyclone, rather, when I show you guys the models. And like I said, getting it down to 977, this is plenty enough fuel to get that job done as we head out through time. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the GFS here. This was initialized as 6C today, and right now we're initialized at 988 millibars, which is a little bit too high, but we're going to take a look at the soundings. We're looking at the wind shear is definitely iffy here, but relative humidity is pretty good. 24 hours, we're at 981 millibars. We're going to see how that pans out as we head out through the next 24 hours or so. 10 knots of shear and 75% relative humidity. So these values are definitely good enough for anticipation as we head out farther in time. And like I said, here we go, 978 millibars, 977. So, as you guys can see, New Caledonia is probably going to be in for some very crappy weather here for the next day and a half as we head out farther into time. But here we go with 977. We're looking at 24 knots of shear and 77% relative humidity. So relative humidity is still pretty good, but the shear is kind of so-so. And then after that, it just kind of starts to break apart, becomes extra tropical in nature, and then that's pretty much all she wrote when terms from the GFS. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the European. This is the 6C model, 993. So the European is actually more reasonable here than the GFS. We're looking at 24 knots of shear and 61% relative humidity. That's definitely not a good look for a tropical cyclone. But as you can see, heading out through time, it does strengthen this system farther in the time with 13 knots of shear, but the relative humidity is definitely not there, so 65%. There's definitely some dry air around, so that's probably why the relative humidity is not very good at this current point in time. So GFS or Euro here, 48 hours, 984. We are looking at 24 knots of shear and 64% relative humidity, so it's the same as always. But the key difference here between the GFS and the European is the European has less impacts for New Caledonia, which is good and all, but we're going to have to see how real-time trends play out as we head out through the next couple of days. Right now, it looks like the convective burst is heading right through New Caledonia. So we're right here at 72 hours out. Let's see what the soundings are. 18 knots of shear and 65% relative humidity. That's not so great, but then we can only go 90 hours out from here. But as you can see, after that, it's on a weakening trend as we head out farther into time. All right. So with that being said, people in New Caledonia, watch out for some gusty, damaging winds, heavy rainfall, possibly flooding, and just stay safe. If you guys have any flooding, they just try to stay indoors. Period. But if you absolutely have to go out, find the safest route to get to your destinations. If you see flooding on the roadways, what we say here in America is turn around, don't drown. And that implies everywhere, not just America, but everywhere. So if you see flooding on the roadways, turn around, find another route. So with that being said, I'll probably have another update on Tropical Cyclone Fili in the evening time because this is an immediate threat to land. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys stay safe and have a nice day.